So good afternoon. Thank you for coming to the Australian Chinese Charity Foundation ACCF briefing session for community organizations and community project grants on community project grants and emergency assistance fund today. First of all, I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are present here today. Good afternoon. My name is Victor Yung. I'm the event chair for this briefing session today. I'm also one of the committee members of the Funds and Grants Assessment Committee, also the membership officer and also the management committee member of ACCF. So thank you very much for attending this briefing session today with us on this beautiful Friday afternoon. So just a brief rundown of today's session. First of all, we'll have a bit of a introduction about ACCF for those of you who is the first time joining us on an ACCF organized event. And then we will have our chairman's address and also Funds and Grants Assessment Committee chairman address. And then we'll go into the two important subject matters for today, which is two of our current funding streams, the community project grants and also the emergency assistance fund. And then there will be a Q&A session at the end as well. So just a few housekeeping issues before I continue. So today's sessions will be recorded for those of you, for those people who have missed out on today, and we'll put that up on our website later on. So if you're not willing to, be recorded, your face will be recorded, please close your camera. Just a kind reminder for that. And then second thing is, if you do have any questions to us, please feel free to drop your questions on the meeting chat message box. And we'll try to answer them at the end of the session. So please feel free to drop those questions, but we'll answer them towards the end. So first of all, without further ado, so for those of you who's first time joining us on ACCF event, so who's ACCF? So ACCF was formed in 1990 as a board-based charity organization to help the Australian community at large. So it's a non-political, non-profit and charitable organization. It's supported by the generosity of our patrons, trustees, and also life members, ordinary members, and also the dedication of a management committee and a council board. They're all voluntary members who have worked consistently to achieve ACCF aims and objectives to extend ACCF reach to many other charitable organizations. We don't have any paid staff. We are all volunteers. And our mission obviously is to foster love, care, and harmony in the community. And ACCF has assisted many community organizations, like most of you who attend today, and needy individuals through our community involvement. And since financial year 2013, ACCF has contributed over $844,000 in annual funding grants, over 1.1 million in general donations and disaster relief. We've also granted over $36,000 in emergency grants and also supported 132 different charities across Australia. So let's start off. First of all, I would like to welcome our chairman, Mr. Benjamin Chow AO, to say a few words for us. Please welcome Benjamin.
Thank you very much, Victor. Welcome everybody to this meeting. As I understand, this is really more a working technical meeting. So I'll be very brief. Victor has already mentioned some of the things that we have been able to do in terms of the size of fundings that we have been able to distribute. I'd just like to say that ACCF is only a funding body. We have a foundation money, which we don't touch. The capital fund, we don't touch. We only spend the earnings from our capital fund. And on top of that, we also try to raise a bit more money every year through events. We are not a services organization in the sense that we do not provide service to needy people, and we just provide the funding. So we rely on most of you real services provision organizations to do your work. And our focus in the past been supporting especially seed funding to new projects or initiatives that hopefully can grow bigger and attract government funding, because without funding is really not huge, but for initiating new projects, if you have new ideas, we are not as stringent as some of these other bigger foundations or governments to try and get your project started. So I think I will just leave it at that, because, as I said, it is primarily a working meeting. It would be good to get feedback from you service providers as to what is the best way for us to help you to help the needy in the most efficient way. So thank you very much for your good work, and thank you for participating in this meeting. Victor?
Thank you. Thanks, Benjamin. Next up, I would like to invite our chairman of the Funds and Grants Assessment Committee, Mr. Celia Chai, to say a few words for us.
Welcome. Thank you, Victor. Hi, everyone. My name is Cecilia Chai. My pronoun is she, her, and my title has been changed to chairperson instead of chairman. I have to make sure that it happens next time. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owner of the land that I am joining the meeting from, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nations, and pay respect to their elders past and present. And I extend my welcome to any First Nations colleagues who have joined us today. Once again, thank you very much for taking the time out to be with us this afternoon. Like Benjamin said, we are actually, I'm going to say what Benjamin has said. So we are actually all volunteers. We're a very small group. The Funds and Grants Committee's job basically is to try and distribute the kind donations from our donors in an equitable, transparent, and accountable way. So that's our remit. But we are a small group. We are all volunteers. Most of us work full time. I think at least 2 of our members actually work more than 2 jobs. So we really rely on you people to refer eligible cases to us with strong evidence, because that would therefore help the process to be a lot smoother for us and for you. That said, that's why we decided to have this briefing session, so that we can meet you and you can meet us, so that you know how we work, who we are, and what are some of the things that we are thinking. And also importantly, to understand the limitations that we have, because we do want to work with you to help us overcome some of the limitations. Like Benjamin said, we do treat you as our partners. We treat you as our eyes and ears in the community. So we welcome any feedback from you, particularly process-wide, so that it can help us improve our processes and help help the more vulnerable families and people. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to pass it back to Victor so that we can progress with the meeting. Thank you, Victor.
Thanks, Cecilia. So without further ado, we are now going to our the most important, two most important matters, I think, for today, especially. First of all, we're now going to our next section today. I would like to invite one of our Funds and Grant Assessment Committee members, Mr. Celine Mock, to talk to us about the ACCF Community Project Grant funding stream. Welcome, Celine.
Thank you, Victor. Oh, hi, everyone. Welcome to the briefing session for Community Project Grant Program. Nice to see some familiar names and faces here. So the aim of this presentation is to give you an insight of what we're looking for in your application. So we'll start off with a brief introduction, an overview of the application process, some key assessment criteria, eligibility, and how we look into your budget input, and some common issues that we identified from the past applications, as well as some the post-award processes that you have to complete. Victor, please change slide. As an introduction, ACCF will provide an annual grant opportunity with a maximum award of $10,000. The 24-25 project grant will open in mid-July, and the outcome will be announced around October. And it's a theme-based approach, and the theme for the coming year is mental health. And the assessment committee is in the process of finalizing the detail of the theme, especially its focus area and priorities. So you will receive an email regarding the when it's opened, and it will also be uploaded on the website. So watch the space. Primarily, we will support projects that aim to enhance the well-being of certain specific groups, depending on our theme and our target groups, and projects that are able to empower communities to foster changes and foster inclusiveness, and projects that are able to create opportunities for those vulnerable population groups. We also prioritize supporting those underfunded community organizations, especially those facing challenges in applying for funding. Next, please. So who is eligible to apply? You have to be a registered not-for-profit or a registered charitable organization, or if you are neither of these two, you have to be auspiced by a not-for-profit organization. Next. So in regards to application process, as mentioned, all information and resources will be available on ACCF website around mid-July, including the announcement of the grant opportunity and outlining the timeline, its opening date, closing date, outcome announcement dates. There will be a detailed grant guidelines and criteria available, together with what sort of documents and attachments are required to go in with your application. And also there will be an online application form with submission instructions available. Please go through all these details before you put in your submission. Next, please. I would like to reinforce what sort of documentations are required, because from the past experience, a number of organizations did fail to put in the required documentations, and it's a pity if they got rejected because of that. So you will need to prove your organization's legal status by providing a certificate of currency for public liability insurance, certificate of incorporation, your latest annual report, your latest financial statement. If auspicing is required, you will need a letter of support from the auspiced organization. Thank you, Victor. In regards to assessment criteria, we pinpointed some key factors to determine the eligibility for funding. For example, we look at the alignment of your project. That is, we look at how significant your project align with the program's objectives and priorities and ACCF's mission and priorities. We also look carefully into the feasibility of your project. So what sort of evidence of needs and priorities have your project included? Have they supported with data? Is the project realistic and achievable within the proposed time frame? And is the project within budget? Please, Victor. And does your project demonstrate creativity or innovation? And regarding impact, what potential positive outcomes or changes will your project bring about to the intended beneficiaries or communities? And regarding monitoring and evaluation, do you have a plan for monitoring the project progress? And do you have a plan for sustaining the impact beyond that grant period? And these are all key factors that we put into consideration carefully, and hopefully it will help us to determine a consistent and transparent decision. So, and in terms of budget consideration, this is another very crucial component that from the past applications, a lot of applications did fail because they didn't follow the guidelines of what expenses are allowed and what's not. So make sure you read carefully, go through the guidelines carefully. So you will need to provide a detailed and well-justified budget breakdown that demonstrate that relevance of that proposed expenditure and linking each of the expense items directly to the to the activities that outlined in your proposal. And if you have other sources of income generated, please disclose them. For example, if your project has some government funding or your project has a fee for service or any in-kind contribution, partnership contribution, or any other fundraising efforts, please disclose and include them all in your budget. Next. I would like to emphasize also on what sort of expenses are not supported. And again, this is another crucial component that we look into. And again, a lot of applications did fail because they haven't followed the guidelines. So we do not fund ongoing staff salaries, maintenance, operating costs, capital expenditures, including tools and equipment. And of course, any expenses that are not related or necessary for the project, you will get rejected. But having said that, the assessment committee has agreed to agree up to 10% of the admin costs that directly related to the project. Another factor I like to emphasize is for projects that are primarily the responsibility of Commonwealth, state, and local government areas responsibilities, we will not consider it. And also for projects that are most appropriately funded by, for example, NDIS or My Aged Care, we will also not consider it. Victor, please. I would also like to identify some common issues that we identified from some past applications. Projects that do not align with grants objectives and priorities, some incomplete applications, for example, insufficient supporting documentations, missing deadlines, missing signatures, etc. And of course, the unclear budget breakdown and justification. You have mistaken cost estimates included, expenses that are not supported have included in there. Another factor is the outstanding acquittals. For those applicants who had failed to put in acquittal report from past years, will not have their applications accepted. Okay, the last step is the admin and reporting procedures that you need to complete and follow. You will receive the grant agreement if you're granted an award. And upon acceptance of the terms and conditions, please sign and return. And we will then transfer the funds directly to your designated account. You will need to acknowledge ACCF's award with ACCF name and logo in any of your external public announcements and materials, for example, website, blog posts, etc. And in regards to reporting the project progress, please update us regularly on the project progress, including any postings on our website, blog posts, any stories, photos that regarding the outcome or highlighting the activities of your project, please share with us. And in terms of acquittals, you're required to complete the acquittal report within 2 months upon completion of your project. And any unspent fund, please repay us back and related to the project. So I think that's all for community grant program. And as I mentioned, all details will be available on the website around mid-July, so watch out for it. And any questions and feedback, please feel free to raise it at the end of the briefing sessions. And also there will be any inquiries, feel free to contact us on the Funds and Grant email address. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, Celine. Thank you very much. So just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop down your questions in our meeting chat message box, and we'll answer them at the end during our Q&A section. All right. Next up, I would like to invite another of our assessment committee member, Ms. Terry To, to talk about the Emergency Assistance Fund. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the owners of the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet here virtually today. I'm on the Gadigal land of the Aryan Nations, and I would like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And I would also like to extend my respects to all those Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who might be present here today. So I'm going to talk about the emergency fund. The emergency assistance fund is some information has already been put on our website, and it aims at addressing the needs. So basically the emergency needs arising from unforeseen or unexpected circumstance resulting in financial or other hardship, and government assistance and other avenues have been exhausted to meet such needs. So I highlighted unforeseen and unexpected. So therefore, if you compare the this one to the community projects grants, unfortunately, because as in, the terms can suggest unforeseen or unexpected, it's quite hard for us to sometimes give you a definition. Therefore, I wanted to stress that your assessment as a referrer will be very important to guide us on our assessment. So next, please. The application amount is up to a maximum of $1,000, and there's actually no closing day of applications. In other words, I said the grant is open all year round until the amount allocated for that year has exhausted. So usually we try our very best to address, because as the name implies, it's emergency, and we want to make sure the outcome is available as soon as practicable, and we push ourselves very hard. Hopefully we can give an outcome to you within 7 days. Next, please. So who's eligible to apply? So the individual cannot actually apply for that. They need to apply through an organization. There is actually no visa restriction for the applicant. The application must be put in by a registered non-profit organization, registered charitable organization, or a group auspiced by a non-profit organization. Now, I need to stress because we previously received an individual application. Unfortunately, because of this criteria, we cannot deal with it. We then need to advise that individual to approach an organization to get referred. All right, and then the application process. So next slide, please. So the application must be made through the ACCF website. We only receive the application via this method for audit and other purposes. So application will then be assessed by the assessment committee. So currently there are a few assessment committee members who comes from different backgrounds. Professional backgrounds and also experiences in connections with the community that are now sitting on the assessment committee. Although I'm usually the one, if I have communicated with you, it's not just only me to be on that committee, just to let you know. The application outcome will then be announced to the applicant whether it's successful or unsuccessful. For those successful applications, we will then ask you to fill in the details on a banking details template. And then we'll action that by directly transferring the funds to the individual's account. All right, next. So the terms and conditions. First of all, the funded individuals are required to use the funds for the purpose stated in the application. So we won't come back to ask you or ask for any evidence or whatever. We'll rely on the organization to monitor the use of the fund. All the applications must be made by the referring organization who has the responsibility to assess the client's circumstance against the guidelines. I want to stress that because we trust that you are familiar with the client situation, and before you put in the application, you check against the guideline to see whether it fits. So I believe that it's quite similar to any other funding, any other community funding, that you would always check to ensure that the criteria are met before you put in the application. The referring organization must also provide a letter of support dated within a week in their entity's letterhead, providing a brief summary of the client situation and the intended use of the fund if granted. And then the decision of ACCF in the provision of the emergency assistance is final and it's not subject to any appeal process. We do apologize this because as Cecilia and my other colleagues have already mentioned that because we're purely a volunteer organization. And the nature of the emergency fund is quite urgent, and therefore the turnaround time expected is quite quick. And unfortunately, we can't be giving each feedback to each of the application. So we apologize for this. And the next one. The criteria for assessment. So first of all, of course, there should be the presence of the financial hardship. Of course, because the client requires money, and therefore we expect that there will be certain financial hardship. But I wanted to stress that the second one is very important, which I will also explain some of the successful and unsuccessful applications in the next few slides. The presence of an unexpected and unforeseen circumstance is important. And we also take into consideration the recency of the unexpected or unforeseen circumstance. Give you an example, if the person has experienced domestic violence, of course, it is unexpected. It's unfortunate, it's unforeseen. But at the same time, if we're talking about a person who has experienced domestic violence 2-3 years ago, so it's not recent. And when we compare that, because we are aware of the fact that a lot of people affected by a lot of factors, especially about affordability and other things. But at the same time, we also need to prioritize. If we compare apples to apples, we need to then prioritize the use of the fund to those who are in a more urgent and recent situation, if that makes sense. And the next one, please. All right, overall of the previous successful applications, I'm sorry, I can't give you the full details because of confidentiality of the personal information or circumstances. But generally, I try very hard to summarize the successful applications. Usually, they have a clear information to explain the unexpected or unforeseen circumstance. They give us a very clear picture of what has actually happened. And the recency of that, some even gave us very clear days when it happened. The supporting documents they have submitted include say they face homelessness, very high risk of homelessness, and therefore they provided us with an eviction letter, assessment letter by a medical doctor saying that it is a terminal illness. A news report indicating the disaster this individual experienced that I can remember. So these are some examples. And I also wanted to share with you some of the unsuccessful applications in the next slide. Thank you. Now, some of them do not actually have any supporting document at all. There was absent of a clear, unexpected, or unforeseen circumstance. And we read some of the application, the top part, the letter and the information are basically inconsistent, or sometimes it's hard to relate to each other. There was only brief information that does not have specific, such as incomplete sentence. It's basically you need to guess what they're trying to explain in the application. And the unexpected or unforeseen circumstance happened, but a long time ago. And they said that they struggle very hard, and they are with family members, but there was no details about the family member. Are there any other support and other things? Now, I think that we have to stress that regardless of the visa status or the circumstances of the person. So I think that the description is very important to give us a full picture. And this is something that we want to convey to you. As I mentioned, that inconsistency in the intended use of the fund in the first part and the later part, we identify in some of the applications, and the intended use might be met by accessing resources in the community. So these are some of the examples that we can give you. Okay, in the next slide, I also wanted to share with you our challenges. So occasionally there were some large number of applications coming in. We experienced for a few weeks there were close to 10 applications. And as I just mentioned, we want to push ourselves very hard in making sure that we make the outcome available to you as soon as possible. And sometimes it's very hard. So we acknowledge the emergent nature. The outcome, we try to give it to you as soon as possible. So I also wanted to use this opportunity to convey the message to you that the committee actually acknowledged the challenges that the marginalized individuals has experienced, especially about issues such as affordability or whatever. When you put in an application, even though it's unsuccessful, it doesn't mean that we do not agree with the client. We do not agree with that financial hardship has been experienced by the individual. It's just because when we try to match it with our criteria, we need to then prioritize. And we might, I don't know, maybe in the future we will consider other options as well. So, and as I mentioned, because we really volunteer organization and have any paid staff to manage any grants, I sometimes really receive some application who said that, so this is actually the client contact number and you can call me, whatever. Unfortunately, because most of us are working full time, we don't have time to check, investigate, and we rely on your expertise to tell us and check the client situation, and explain to us how the client situation has met the criteria. So this is a very important message we wanted to pass on to you in this briefing session. And if you have any questions, of course, you're more than welcome to contact us. That's it for my presentation.
Thanks, Terry. So, yeah. Now we are going to our Q&A session for today. So if you do have any question, please either type in the message chat box or you can even raise your hand up. But I do have some questions already being posted by some attendees. So first of all, yeah, it's actually a series of questions from Elisa. And the first question is this funding, I'm thinking he's Lisa's talking about community project funding, available to all community organizations, including organizations supporting people living with rare disease in Australia. So probably direct that question to Celine.
Yeah, I'll answer that. Yes, our funding is available to all community organizations. So we believe in supporting a diverse range of communities to ensure that our support reaches those in need across various sectors and improving the lives of the individuals and specific groups within the community.
All right, thank you, Celine. And the second question is, yeah, which is an interesting one. Is there a preference for organizations that support Chinese community members? Celine, maybe you can answer that.
We are open to funding projects that benefit all sectors of the communities, in fact, regardless of their ethnic or cultural background. And ACCF does not exclusively prioritize organizations that support Chinese community members. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Totally. And the last question I got from Lisa is, do you prefer projects that support particular courses, for example, disability, health, and welfare, etc.?
We do not prioritize projects that support any specific course. We assess each application on its own merits, considering its potential impact and alignment with ACCF's objectives and priorities. So our goal is to make a meaningful difference across a diverse range of needs. So we welcome a variety of project proposals, but of course it has to align with our theme as well. So I hope these answers will answer the questions to whoever put that in.
Yeah, Alicia, yeah. All right, so just looking at the chat message box, see if there's any other questions. So if you do have any other questions, please post it here. Oh, yeah, Alicia just says thanks, Celine.
Thank you.
Yep, so if you do have other questions, please post it to the message box, or you can raise your hand up as well. So just looking right now, see if there's any further more questions coming through.
Hi, Victor. I write the message in the chat box. I'm asking for the funding, who paid for the emergency fund to the family. If a single mom with 3 kids, can they apply? You know, your funding by clients or by the whole family, so they can maximum get $1,000, or by their situation, or pay by each client.
Probably have to direct that question to Terry. Can Terry hear that? Yeah. I think Terry needs to.
Your mic, yeah.
Yes. So thank you for the question. So I think it's a bit tricky for this question, but I think that it's very hard because we need to judge each case by their own merit. it's quite hard to basically tell you that, hey, because there are actually 5 family members and therefore each of them can apply for one. So we need to assess by the individual situation. And I don't want to be just saying that yes, and is a yes or no, but rather this case must be put up as an application and tell us what the unexpected situation and also the intended use of the fund. Give you one example, because we had some application who said that the fund is actually used for a client particular situation, such as emergency use on medical needs, that it would be that individual. I hope it makes sense to you. So will be quite hard to answer this question if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's okay, because our clients are the victim survivor for domestic violence, the mom with the 3 kids, and they already overdue for their rental, to pay the rent for 3 weeks. So they are risk of homeless. We are struggling to find any, financial support for them, because they already get recognition payment or the payment last year, but because the perpetrator breached the AVO again, so really high risk family. So is that you mean we can lodge the application, but you will assess the situation? I don't need to lodge 3 application or 4 application for the family, right?
Yeah, well, but each application, the amount is $1,000 for sure, because we can't go beyond that maximum amount. And I think that the other thing that I wanted also to stress is that the amount of money is basically intended to be used for temporary use. It's not for
Yeah, they need the money to pay the bond, because and the temporary to hold the house, otherwise they will be homeless. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Can I say something, Jane, or any other people? It's I think cases like that, it's up to you as the worker to convince us. You have to tell us the situation. Then it makes it easier for us to assess, rather than because we don't know. So you'd have to convince us. You'd have to tell us what the situation is and prove the case to us. Give us evidence. I have to say that for the last few months, Terry has been chasing evidence nearly every day. So if you can provide evidence that would save her a lot of white hair, even though her hair is white, but it would save her a lot of time. It would save the committee a lot of heartbreak. But yeah, convince us, show us the case, and so that we can make decision a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
No worries. Just checking if there's any other further questions. Anyone who has any questions, please feel free to send us in the chat box or. All right. So if there's no further questions, I'll probably conclude the online briefing session for today. Thank you very much to all those of you who attend today's sessions. Also, one further questions as well. So for those of you who attended today, if you're happy to receive our, we do have our like a newsletter that we do send. Probably we try to send it quarterly, but if you are interested, please let us know and we'll put you in the mailing list. Or you can actually now also go to our ACCF website, accfnsw.org. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter as well. And once again, kind reminder, so please look out for those of you interested in the upcoming community project grants. Please look out for any latest information around mid-July onwards for any update on our website. And also, if you do have any other questions or queries, please feel free to send them over to our email, our Funds and Grants email address. So it's fundsandgrants@accfnsw.org. All right. Thank you so much to everyone, and thank you all once again for coming. I hope you have a great afternoon and a good weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thank you,
Victor.
everyone.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Victor.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ACCF.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye, Andrew.